On August 15, 2025, Bruce Willis moved into a nursing facility. His family spent $200,000 a year just to keep him safe. The man who used to shout over explosions in Die Hard can't talk anymore. But that's not the worst part. Emma told something she had kept secret for years. She assumed Bruce was just being cold. She didn't know that his brain was slowly decaying. Long before anyone knew, the sickness had begun taking him away. What his family found out will make you cry. Bruce Willis was born on March 19, 1955, in Idar-Oberstein, a tiny town in West Germany. His mother was German and from Kassel, while his father was an American soldier who was stationed there after the war. Bruce's environment was divided between two civilizations from the very beginning. He lived on a military base with the ghosts of a recent war all around him. He was stuck between American discipline and German traditions. But everything changed when he was only 2 years old. In 1957, his dad left the army, and the whole family moved to New Jersey across the Atlantic. Bruce was no longer the boy from Germany all of a sudden. He was just another child living in a tough American neighborhood with manufacturing workers and families who were having a hard time. His dad worked with metal, and his mom did little tasks at banks. They didn't have anything, and Bruce felt like he didn't belong anyplace. As the 1960s began, he began to feel very troubled. Bruce started to stutter when he was about 6 years old. He couldn't get the words out. He'd try to talk, but nothing would come out right. Kids made fun of him and called him Buck Buck, which was a mean name. He attempted to strike back with his fists, striking frantically only to protect himself, but he couldn't stop thinking about how bad it felt to not be able to communicate effectively. There were moments when it took him minutes to say a sentence. It made him feel bad about himself. School had already turned into a war zone by the time he was 10. Not only did the stammer hurt, it made him feel alone. High school might have been the last straw. He didn't go to class just so he wouldn't be called on. He played tricks on individuals to keep them from listening to him. But one day in the early 1970s, when he was about 15, he took a chance and joined the theatrical club. And something that can't be true happened. As soon as he got on stage and read lines, his stammer was away. It was like a spell. He could communicate clearly, eloquently, and without fear. People listened for the first time. The teachers were shocked. Bruce understood that acting gave him back his voice and that the words came easily when he was someone else. That finding changed everything. He was the president of the student council by 1973, even though some youngsters still made fun of him. He didn't care. He had found something that made him feel like he was living. 2 instructors at Montclair State University gave him speech therapy in 1975 when he was studying theater. This helped much more. But by 1977, Bruce was done with education. He quit school and went straight to New York City, where he was motivated to chase something bigger. He worked long hours as a bartender to stay alive because he had no money or friends. He sometimes had to sleep on couches or in small flats. But he was funny. He rode his skateboard to work. He played the harmonica for money. He transformed the bar into a stage. Those years were hard and full with problems. He got turned down more than 100 times in his first year. But he slowly started getting parts in off-Broadway productions. In 1977, he got his first real role in a play called Heaven and Earth. He kept going even though the money was low and he kept getting turned down. When things got worse, he sometimes had to sleep on benches. But others began to pay attention to him. He had modest parts in commercials and movies, and in 1980 he even had a short cameo with Frank Sinatra. But one night while he was working as a bartender, he got into a fight to protect someone. His nose was very broken. He had to have surgery right away. The doctors said that the injury could impair his voice, but he got well. He came back stronger. He still had the scar, which gave him an edge. Nobody realized he would become one of the biggest action stars in the world at that time. But in those little, struggling taverns in New York, he made something stronger than fame. He made acquaintances that would last for decades. He met John Goodman behind the counter at Chelsea Central, and they put on crazy, improvisational plays that shocked small groups. They were poor and only made a few bucks a week, but they were really passionate. They didn't use scripts when they worked. They yelled and sobbed and plunged themselves into everything. These rough performances helped Bruce get better at timing and provided him the energy that would one day light up movie screens. In 1985, though, everything changed. Bruce went to an audition for a new TV show called Moonlighting. There were perhaps 3,000 actors who desired the part, including radio personalities and trained actors. ABC turned Bruce down 11 times, but he came back one last time with a shaved head, earrings, and an attitude that couldn't be ignored. He made up his remarks on the spot and made the producers chuckle. The person with a stutter who was an outcast was suddenly the one they sought. Bruce Willis became a star overnight when Moonlighting premiered on March 3, 1985. The concert was messy and cost a lot of money. It took twice as long to film as most shows do. The episodes were 120 pages long, but Bruce's charm, quickness, and unpredictability made them a hit. He and his co-star Sybil Shepherd fought a lot. By 1986, things on set were getting very tense. They fought, yelled at each other before scenes, and occasionally wouldn't talk to each other off camera. In 1988, Bruce passed out from fatigue because of the stress and had to go to the hospital. Scripts were late, ratings fell, but the fire between them kept people interested. Bruce was burning out behind the scenes, but in front of the camera, he was quite interesting. Bruce stunned everyone by putting out a music album called The Return of Bruno in January 1987, even though all of this was going on. People didn't think a TV celebrity would be at the top of the charts, yet he was. The album sold 500,000 copies and went gold. It even got to number 2 in the UK. Fans didn't care what critics said. Bruce sung with soul legends and made it something that will last forever. It was odd, brave, and exciting, just like him. But the work was starting to wear on him. Filming Moonlighting episodes that cost more than $1 million apiece drove Bruce to his limit. His co-star got pregnant in 1987, which prompted more delays and a big writer's strike in 1988 almost ended the show for good. The show finally terminated on May 14, 1989. Bruce had done everything he could. His name was already well known in Hollywood by then. He was making $50,000 per episode on TV. A huge jump from the $1,500 gigs he started with. Bruce Willis wasn't planned to be the main character at the time. People generally knew him as the pleasant man from Moonlighting, and no one thought he would get the lead role in a large action movie. But in a weird turn of events, a script called Die Hard was making its way around Hollywood in the late 1980s. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, two big stars, have already said no. People even begged Frank Sinatra to do it, since the story was essentially a sequel to something he had been in decades before. He also died. Then, all of a sudden, Bruce Willis got the job. Not only was it surprising that he was picked, but also that the studio was willing to pay him $5 million. That was the kind of money that only superstars like Robert Redford or Dustin Hoffman could get. People who worked in the business thought the studio had gone crazy. Filming started in late 1987, and much of it took place inside Fox Plaza in Los Angeles. No one knew that the movie would be a huge hit when it came out on July 15, 1988. It made more than $140 million over the world. And made Bruce Willis an action hero in every way. But it cost something. He lost part of his hearing in his left ear permanently after a loud explosion went off too close to him during one of the many stunts. He didn't say anything at the time so that manufacturing wouldn't be stopped. But years later, it was found that the damage never completely healed, and it became one of the health problems that plagued him into the 2000s. But that gritty, relatable energy he brought to John McClane changed everything. He didn't seem like a superhero. He seemed like a normal guy who was in a bad circumstance, and people liked him for it. Bruce performed something no one saw coming just a year later. He agreed to voice a baby in the movie Look Who's Talking. It sounded like a joke, but the notion wasn't the only thing that surprised him. It was what he was paid. He made $10 million for just 4 days of voice work. Why? A savvy agreement that let him keep some of the money. The movie cost less than $10 million to make, but it made approximately $300 million around the world. Families all over loved his voice, which was full with charm and irony. The movie became a series. He also got $10 million for the sequel. People began to see that he wasn't merely lucky. He was also smart. Then he attempted something altogether different. In Country came out in September 1989. It was a meandering, sad story of a Vietnam veteran who lived in a little village. Bruce grew a mustache and acted the part with a lot of pain. His own dad had been in the Korean War. And maybe that made the show seem more real. People who didn't like it enjoyed it. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars. But people didn't come to see it. The movie only made a few $1 million. But it demonstrated that Bruce wasn't hesitant to take chances, even if it meant giving up another hit. He was back to full action mode by 1990. On July 4, Die Hard 2 came out in theaters. Bruce realized how much he was worth this time. He got $7.5 million up front and a share of the earnings. The movie made more than $240 million around the world, which is more than the first one. He and the director had a fight behind the scenes over how realistic the movie should be. He didn't want silly stunts. He wanted the risk to be real. That same way of thinking, caring about the small things, helped him move along in his work. By the time the third movie came out in 1995, he was making $15 million. But not everything he touched turned into gold. The follow-up to Look Who's Talking, which came out in late 1990, did not do well. It only made $47 million and critics didn't like it. Bruce had recorded all of his lines in just 3 days, but he later said that the screenplay wasn't ready. He even took the producer to court, saying that they owed him $2 million from the revenues. But the case was thrown out. It was a reminder that making money quickly didn't always mean success for a long time. Then something changed. Pulp Fiction came out in 1994. Bruce was cast as Butch, a boxer who won't throw a bout, by Quentin Tarantino. The movie didn't only bring his career back to life. People saw him in a different way. Rough, sincere, and ready to take chances. He only got $800,000 for the part, which is a lot less than he usually gets. But he didn't care. It was about the plot. The movie made more than $200 million and won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. People finally started to see Bruce as more than just an action star, even though he wasn't nominated. He pushed even harder the next year. He played a shattered man from a future after the end of the world in the movie 12 Monkeys, which came out in late 1995. For the part, he shed 20 pounds. He went to mental facilities to get ready. He broke his shoulder attempting a stunt while they were filming. He continued going, though. The movie produced more than $160 million and was nominated for 2 Oscars. Bruce did not get another nomination. But no one could doubt how hard he worked for the part. In 1997, he shocked everyone again with The Fifth Element. It was crazy, colorful, and full of chaos. Bruce played a cab driver who was the last hope for Earth. The movie cost about $90 million, which was a lot of money at the time, and it made more than $260 million. Bruce did his own stunts. He despised the tight orange vests he wore. But for some reason, it all worked. The movie became a cult hit. Then, in 1998, Bruce starred in the big disaster blockbuster Armageddon. He played Harry Stamper, a rugged oil driller who had to stop an asteroid from hitting Earth. The movie came out on July 1 and generated more than $583 million around the world, making it the best movie of the year. But things weren't going well behind the scenes. Bruce and filmmaker Michael Bay argued about scenes that were removed, especially the times when the family was emotional. He reportedly got into a fight with producer Jerry Bruckheimer and later remarked that filming was terrible. Bruce still improvised one of the movie's most emotional parts, the sobbing departure, which helped it resonate with people. The movie garnered 4 Oscar nominations, but Bruce got a Razzie for Worst Actor in 1999, which is unusual for a movie that was such a big smash. Bruce's personal life was again in the news in 1987. He met Demi Moore in July during a movie screening. During the time, she was still engaged to Emilio Estevez. But just 4 months later, on November 21, 1987, Bruce and Demi got married in Las Vegas. Demi later revealed that the wedding wasn't even planned. Bruce told them to just get married instead of going to the casino. A month later, they had a real wedding with about 100 guests, and Little Richard was the officiant. The quick marriage cost less than $1,000, but it started a strong connection in Hollywood. People said Demi was pregnant before the wedding, but their first daughter, Rumor, was born exactly 9 months later, in August 1988. Bruce and Demi had 3 daughters together. Rumor was born in 1988, Scout in 1991, and Tallulah in 1994. They took turns playing movie roles to try to reconcile job and family, but fame made things harder. Demi made a record $12.5 million for striptease in 1996, but rumors of affairs started to spread about both of them. Bruce was associated to models, and Demi was tied to her co-stars. According to reports, Bruce stormed off the set of a movie in 1995 after an argument. Even while they were still together in public, things were getting worse behind the scenes. Bruce and Demi broke up in 1998 after being married for 11 years. In October 2000, their divorce was official. The breakup seemed calm on the outside, but they fought behind closed doors over their $200 million inheritance. Demi got up to $90 million from Bruce. One of the most costly divorces in Hollywood history. They also had to figure out who would get custody of their daughters. Bruce told Rolling Stone that they kept friends for the kids, but insiders say it was hard. Demi preserved the Idaho ranch where she raised the girls. Bruce was still writing the success of Armageddon at the time, but the divorce revealed that even the biggest stars had problems in their personal lives. It was surprising that the two kept close even after they got divorced. Demi went at Bruce's wedding to Emma Hemming in 2009. Demi was there for the family celebration in 2019 when Bruce and Emma renewed their vows. They even spent the 2020 lockdown together in Idaho with all the kids and posted beautiful pictures. Demi later helped Bruce after he was diagnosed with aphasia in 2022 and frontotemporal dementia in 2023. The mixed family stayed together, proving that love doesn't always cease with marriage. In 1992, a lady said that Bruce had fathered her child after a one-night encounter in 1991. This was one of the worst times in Bruce's life. She sued him and had a DNA test done. The test cost about $5,000 at the time and showed that Bruce was not the father. But the matter nevertheless tarnished his reputation. People thought he was a good father, and this controversy didn't fit that image. Demi stood by him, although reports indicated it was hard for their marriage. Bruce was in The Sixth Sense in 1999. It was a quiet thriller that shocked the globe. He played a child psychologist named Malcolm Crowe and got paid $14 million. No one saw the twist in the story coming. The whole time, Crowe was dead. The movie generated around $673 million around the world and was #1 for 5 weeks. It was the second largest movie of 1999, after Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Bruce didn't get an Oscar nomination, but the part helped his career a lot. He kept the twist a secret from practically everyone and even made up sequences to make his persona seem more authentic. Bruce worked with director M. again in 2000. Unbreakable by Night Shyamalan. He played David Dunn, a man who escapes a train disaster and progressively starts to think he might be a real-life superhero. The movie cost an unbelievable $75 million to film, which is a lot more than expected. This is largely because Bruce made about $20 million and co-star Samuel L. Jackson made $10 million. The large budget generated problems with Disney, even though it made $248 million. Costs went up considerably further because of certain reshoots. The movie did get a lot of fans, though, and it later became part of a trilogy. But at the time, the risky bet almost ruined Shyamalan's career. Bruce had tried his hand at music before he became famous in movies. He put out an album called The Return of Bruno in 1987. He sung renditions of old songs and played a persona named Bruno Radolini. One song, Respect Yourself, even made it to number 5 on the Billboard charts. Under the Boardwalk hit number 2 in the UK. The album went gold after selling more than 500,000 copies. But critics didn't like it. Rolling Stone said it was tone deaf. People made fun of it so severely that Bruce quit singing professionally in 1989. Even so, he played live at huge events like Farm Aid. But the bad reviews hurt him deeply. Bruce was in the news again in 2001, this time because of rumors that spread when Bandits was being filmed. He was in a movie with Billy Bob Thornton and Cate Blanchett. Tabloids said Bruce and Cate were having an affair. When Ashton Kutcher, who was seeing another girl on site, got suspicious, the rumors got stronger. Demi Moore spoke about all of this in her biography from 2019. Blanchett later said it was all a hoax, but the controversy almost destroyed the movie's advertising. Bandits only made $67 million, which wasn't enough to cover its $75 million budget. Bruce had a big failure the next year, in 2002. With The Hart's War. He was a colonel in a prison camp during World War II. The movie cost $70 million to make, yet it only made $32 million around the world. MGM's stock fell, and they lost more than $50 million. Bruce was paid $15 million for the part, but he later said that the incident made him think about his future. He stopped making huge movies and went to rehab. Bruce Willis brings John McClane back to life in Live Free or Die Hard in 2007. This time, he was up against hackers. The movie made $383 million worldwide, even though it was rated PG-13. But things weren't going so well behind the scenes. Willis got a concussion when a stunt went wrong during a high-speed chase and he smacked his head hard. It wasn't his first brush with peril on site either. He almost died in the first Die Hard because of an explosion, and the gunshots made him deaf in his left ear. Justin Long, who played the other main character, kept things light even during critical sequences by playing pranks, like putting oatmeal on Willis's seat. Directed by Len Wiseman, the movie made more than $134 million in the US alone. Willis made a surprise change just a year before. He voiced a fast-talking raccoon named RJ instead of Bullets and Blood. In Over the Hedge, a cartoon for kids about animals that are hungry and invade the suburbs. It was completely unexpected, yet he did such a good job that the movie made $339 million around the world. It is said that he made $5 million merely for providing his voice. It came released on May 19 and was a great hit, thanks to co-stars Gary Shandling and Wanda Sykes, who brought the Woodland Group to life. RJ made Bruce a raccoon tricks his friends into helping him pay back a bear, which is funny and sneaky. It was one of the few times fans got to hear him in a kids' movie, which showed a different side of him during the height of his popularity. He played Frank Moses, a retired CIA operative, in the movie Red in 2010. It was a humorous, action-packed movie that made around $200 million around the world. There were a lot of famous people in the cast. The chemistry between Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich, and Helen Mirren was electric. But it weren't all fun and games behind the scenes. Willis was quite tired. And his mood swings on set are said to have caused some uncomfortable times with the crew. Still, critics adored the movie. A sequel in 2013 brought in another $148 million, although many people thought it didn't quite have the same enchantment. Red reminded everyone why Willis was still a heavyweight in action, even though the years were starting to show. He was also in The Expendables for a short time that year, sharing the screen with Schwarzenegger and Stallone. It was a perfect team for aficionados of action movies, but by 2013, things got bad. Willis was offered $3 million to work on Expendables 3 for 4 days, but he wanted $4 million. Stallone didn't take it lightly. He said in public that he was sluggish and greedy. Harrison Ford was cast to take his position within 72 hours. The consequences got a lot of attention. The first movie generated $274 million in 2010, and although the Willis only had a little part, it was very memorable. Ironically, his other movie from 2013, 2, made $80 million. This shows that the greed might have merely been a way to get what he wanted, but the harm was done. Things were different by 2015. Willis was in a lot of low-budget action movies that went direct to video. He played the owner of a resort full of lifelike androids in Vice, one of them. It wanted to be like Blade Runner, but critics didn't appreciate it. It was out in January and didn't make much of a splash. Critics said it was boring and lazy. People started to notice that he was making up to 5 of these kinds of movies a year behind the scenes. The performances didn't feel real. His fire was going out. It made sense when his family said in 2022 that he had been having trouble with aphasia, a neurological disease that affects language. These jobs weren't things they loved to do. They were signs. There was a problem. But life had its own surprises outside of the movies. In 2009, he shocked everyone by marrying British model Emma Hemming. They had met 2 years before on the filming of Perfect Stranger. Even though there was a 24-year age difference, he was 54 and she was 30, they got married in a private ceremony at his villa in the Turks and Caicos on March 21. Demi Moore and their daughters were there. They made it official in Beverly Hills a few days later. They returned back to that same beach 10 years later to rekindle their vows, this time with all 5 of their daughters watching. It was calm, pretty, and a second chance at something stable. In 2015, intruders tried to break into their Idaho ranch, which ruined their calm. The break-in was stopped, but it was really scary. Immediately, security got better. Gates, cameras, and armed guards cost about $500,000 a year. One of the men had personal pictures of the Willis family, which made things worse. It wasn't by chance. It was aimed at. Willis, who is known for being tough on film, took private self-defense classes following that. Their ranch in the middle of nowhere turned into a stronghold. It looked like being famous came with a cost. There were still bad things going on in his life. Willis was detained at his Hollywood Hills home in 1989, while he was riding high on moonlighting. He had been drinking, and when the cops came to a raucous party, he pushed one of them. He was inebriated, shirtless, and hurt his collarbone again after breaking it while skiing. After doing community service, the charges were dropped, but it was a wake-up call. In his 2018 memoir, he talked about his struggles with drinking, including blackouts and confrontations at bars. He said that Alcoholics Anonymous changed his life for the better. Fans were amazed by how well it had been kept a secret. Behind his calm, self-assured presence on television. Then, during the COVID lockdowns in 2020, Bruce did something that no one saw coming. He stayed at Demi Moore's house in Idaho with her 3 adult daughters and their 3 adult daughters. After Evelyn hurt her foot in a park accident, Emma stayed in LA with their younger girls. Bruce and his ex-wife lived together again for weeks. Playing games, wearing the same pajamas, and posting pictures of the family. It was like a dream. The world was on edge, but they were there to illustrate that love doesn't necessarily end when you get divorced. Emma even posted nice remarks on their pictures. It was already one of the most viral moments of the pandemic by the time Bruce got home. Everything changed in March 2022. Bruce's family put out a statement saying he had been diagnosed with aphasia and that he was quitting acting right away. He was 67 years old. The news hit hard. Suddenly, all of the weird things that happened in recent movies made sense. He had trouble speaking and occasionally used earpieces or even body doubles to help him. Some filmmakers had to work around his misunderstanding. It was heartbreaking for an actor who had once been able to control the screen with only a look. Things became worse by February 2023. Doctors confirmed that it had turned into frontotemporal dementia, a rare, incurable condition that slowly takes away personality, language, and the ability to move. Later, Emma claimed she assumed he had merely become distant, but it wasn't him. It was the sickness. His formerly vivacious charisma started to wane. He moved more slowly. He hardly said anything. Bruce moved into a special care home on August 15, 2025. It was close to his family but not in their main house anymore. Emma said it was the hardest choice she had ever had to make. Their daughters, Mabel and Evelyn, were just 11 and 13 years old. Her top concern was to keep them from seeing the worst of it. The new house had people on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and cost more than $200,000 a year. The family still came by a lot and shared meals and laughs when they could. But Emma said it felt like their whole world had come crashing down. Bruce couldn't talk anymore by the middle of 2025. The man who used to yell lines over explosions in Die Hard now only used gestures and rare words to talk. Still, there were occasions when he would laugh. That same loud, unmistakable laugh. He would hear a song from his 1987 album, The Return of Bruno, and something would change in his eyes. Those times, only a few times a week, were worth their weight in gold. But they also served as a reminder. One of the best voices in Hollywood has stopped. Oh,